So what if I told y'all the Transformers and the X-Men would get along perfectly? I know, it may sound like the craziest thing imaginable, but believe it or not, they actually been through the similar things. Like if you take a moment to look at it, the X-Men have been through a lot. I mean, think about it. You get racially profiled because you're a mutant. Don't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Hispanic, Mexican, Latino, all that good stuff, right? It don't matter. You a mutant. You getting profiled as something of just an abomination in general, while the Avengers get praised. And again, I do have some, gripes, against the Avengers for never really stepping in, but I guess that's kind of just how writers just do it. And again, they did make Captain America look bad, but in all honesty, I do think that the Cybertronians would likely be the greatest ally to the X-Men. Now, again, they do have to go through some things like, anti-mutant speeches, which Cybertronians have pretty much kind of been through. I mean, we all saw Age of Extinction, right? And how somehow humanity blamed the Autobots for destroying the entirety of Chicago when they actually saved it, right? So today we're going to talk about five X-Men. I'm sorry, not five X-Men, five Transformers from the franchise, right? That would not only benefit the X-Men, but cause them to change in ways they likely would never know. But let's talk about these five characters, and I'm going to admit, number 5 may surprise y'all. So remember, everything is just based on my opinion on which Cybertronian would be along with the X-Men. So yeah, let's start off with number 5. Now, I know what you guys thinking. Ain't no way this man said Tarn, the second coming of the most ruthless version or the most ruthless time period of Megatron, is certainly a X-Men worthy, member. No. I'm not saying that. No. Tarn is by far the least worthy of any Cybertronian to be an X-Men. But let me cook real quick, right? Tarn is the perfect antagonist for the X-Men. Okay? He is one of the best members or best Decepticons that, in all honesty, I can think of to actually be a villain towards the X-Men from the Transformers franchise. Think about it. This man embodied everything Megatron used to believe in. He embodied everything, the struggle, the hardships, the fact that he went through everything to become the monster or the man or the person that he was back then. And so Magneto would be perfect for Tarn to basically build off of. Imagine Tarn being born as a mutant, with his ability being the fact that he can make someone's soul pretty much explode and, off them. Magneto, seeing the young potential in Tarn, molds him into what he becomes, embodying everything Magneto used to be: ruthless, aggressive, willing to stand 10 toes down without any remorse, any repercussions, any morals. Imagine Tarn being the literal creation of Magneto, a young mutant that was molded and grounded to believe everything Magneto stood for, just to find out his mentor became an X-Men, the people that stood against him. Now, while I do think Tarn would be for mutants, it would definitely be for mutants who stand with them, not stand against them. And I could actually see Tarn being a very, I wouldn't say ruthless. Nah, I don't even think that's the word for it. Tarn would be very sadistic. Like, I think so sadistic to the point where it would scare Sinister. And I think that is the proper way to make Tarn. Have him be such a monster, but he's so calm and collected that he would even scare someone like Mr. Sinister. That is how I would have him. He can make anybody and anything give up their soul just for, just because he wants to. And imagine him doing this to other mutants, to those who were supposed to be protected because they don't side with him, but they're willing to, want to live their own lives, right? So imagine him forming his own brotherhood of evil mutants, all ruthless, all aggressive, all merciless. The basically the Decepticon Justice Division but for mutants, but basically of a group of evil mutants. And the funny thing about it is, Tarn could easily do this, and he would easily have access to all this as well. You see, the one thing I actually do love about Tarn is the fact that he is willing to get all this stuff done. No hesitation, no remorse, none of that. And I would love to see an arc that's built around him and Mystique. I think Mystique would be a pretty interesting one-sided love interest, because imagine Tarn making her feel welcomed, loved, and cared for, but he's just using her for her abilities. The fact that she can sabotage and destabilize entire governments would be fundamental to Tarn's cause, and he would keep her close, kind of like a pet, if you will. And she would be loyal to him at first, but when she really realizes that Tarn doesn't love her for, well, her, she would ultimately betray him. And I could actually see that she would be his downfall. And this would be kind of a poetic justice, if you will. He embodied everything wrong about Magneto, but he forgot the one thing Magneto always stood for: caring for mutants, no matter if they were with him or against him. And I think Magneto and Tarn would definitely be the best way to go about it. And imagine Tarn getting a hold of Nimrods or Predator X's, bending them to his will with his soul manipulation, and utilizing them to attack the X-Men, and just overly obsessing about Magneto to the point where even the Brotherhood starts to betray him, to where Mystique betrays him. And then at the end of it all, he doesn't care. He wants everything dead. He wants Magneto dead. And ultimately, he and his followers wind up being killed by the person he obsessed over. It is again sweet irony, and I think Tarn would be the perfect villain for the X-Men.
Dominates and destroys everything it touches!
I am the Dominator! I am the Destroyer! I am Megatron! Decepticons, receive your birthright!
It should come as no surprise that Megatron was obviously going to be on this top 5 list in general. I mean, he's on the thumbnail. Megatron is perfect for the X-Men. Now, as for his mutant ability, easily antimatter, but let's really talk about his story. Now, Megatron started off, and again, this is the IDW series, he started off as a miner, a part of the slave class, the lowest of the low. And he winded up killing a abusive, I guess you could say, overseer of their division. And, well, he winded up being in the pits of Kaon eventually, where he pretty much fought for his life every day for other people's entertainment. And so slowly but surely, he began to amass a following, not only from the loyal gladiators, but from those who were outside of it. And he wanted to take down the system to where all Cybertronians were equal. And I actually do think Megatron being an X-Men would definitely feel right, I could see him starting off as a Brotherhood of Mutant member, definitely early on, but I also think he would likely be the one to see that maybe they could do better as an X-Men, or if not, maybe be better than the X-Men. So imagine the Brotherhood, right, under Megatron's control rather than Magneto's. They would likely be justifiable. Like, there would definitely be a lot better and a lot more controlled. And in all honesty, I could actually see them outperforming the X-Men when it comes to deeds for mutants. Now, as for, like, close friends and everything, oh yeah, I definitely think Magneto and his entire family would definitely be close to Megatron. I see Megatron and Magneto being, like, very old friends. Maybe even, Megatron was also a Jew back in those days, but just got, I guess you could say it just had different mutant abilities than Magneto, but they grew up close. They were basically like brothers. And then the fact that I think Megatron would also have a positive influence on his children. Imagine Megatron being like the cool militaristic uncle. I think he would actually have a pretty good influence on them early on. And maybe they would actually get over some of their issues. Maybe it pushes Magneto to being a better father to the likes of Polaris or Lorna Dane. You also have Quicksilver. It could also be where Quicksilver does, have another person or basically a third person to essentially love him, So in all honesty, it doesn't look too bad in my opinion. It really doesn't. Everything kind of goes smoothly for Magneto's family. I definitely think Quicksilver would be a lot more disciplined and a lot less headstrong, meaning he would actually have a far better impact on the Marvel Universe, and it's very possible Megatron would actually get rid of his mental limiters, or at least train him to get rid of them. So this means Quicksilver would be moving at the speeds that he's always been able to move at, basically just inaccessible levels of speed, because he no longer feels the need to hold himself back. He could restrain himself, of course, but he's a lot more disciplined. Now, let's talk about the events of Avengers vs. X-Men, because again, I couldn't really do this with Tarn because he would be a villain. I could actually see Tarn being a influence in Avengers vs. X-Men, where he kind of orchestrates the event to happen. Now, as for the fights for Megatron to really have, I could see a whole bunch of them. I mean, the amount of characters that he would likely have a grudge against, I could probably see him fighting against Captain America, even calling him a hypocrite for actually wanting to be here now when the mutants have suffered for so many years. And again, if I had to really pick fights I would love to see him in, like in my own personal opinion, Hulk or Red Hulk, and definitely Thor. I could see that. I could see Megatron just being a vastly better tactician than Red Hulk, and that just gets him the dub. And then with Thor, it could just really come down to stamina. I would actually have him and Thor have this dragged out Rock'em Sock'em type fight, Rock'em Sock'em type fight, and where the winner can just be either way. Or maybe I would actually have this end in like a double knockout, to where they're both on the ground just kind of like smiling at the sheer fact that they just got to cut loose on each other. And again, maybe they could just go back and forth and have all these kind of interactions throughout the entire story. Because again, a lot of the X-Men did have grudge matches throughout the entire story, and we're just fighting them and, well, just having these back and forths. Now, another character I could definitely see him fighting is Spider-Man. And this is pretty much a reference to all the times that, well, Spider-Man has even crossed over with Transformers. I mean, it has happened in more than one occasion. And then there's Iron Man. Now, obviously, we've seen the crossover where Iron Man built a literal Transformers buster to fight against Megatron, and Megatron blew its head completely off. Yeah, with Iron Man having Bleeding Edge, Megatron having Or 13, because again, both of these characters have grown by that point, so even if, Megatron's just like a mutant, I definitely think he would be far too durable for that. Now, as for love interests, I'm definitely torn between Storm and Emma Frost. Either one honestly fits Megatron, but I will admit I am kind of leaning towards Emma Frost because I feel like her personality kind of fits with a Decepticon like theme. She can be very deceptive, very manipulative, and I actually think Megatron would actually be entertained by her, or maybe by her attempts. Storm is kind of more leadership, more straightforward, and more direct, She's a very powerful and very prominent woman. I would definitely have to say that. She basically commands that attention with her power, the way she moves, the way she carries herself. And in all honesty, I could see Megatron and her being a item, but I mean, like I said earlier, I'm leaning more towards Emma Frost, okay? Emma herself doesn't have the best, history when it comes to relationships in Marvel. I mean, dating Scott, messing around with Namor to a degree, and then she married Iron Man. It was healthy for a bit, but then they divorced for some reason, because it was just bad altogether. But I think with Megatron, in all honesty, I think she would actually have a healthy relationship, and in all honesty, unless the writers decided, there would be no reason to really ruin it. I think they would actually have a healthy and loving relationship, and Megatron would be like a stepdad to the Cuckoo Sisters. So believe it or not, I actually do think that Megatron does fit within the X-Men. He could honestly be a great mentor figure for some, and definitely a leader when it really counts. So in all honesty, yeah, I definitely think Megatron does fit within the X-Men.
Come on, Decepticon! Pump!
Come on now, Jazz is the ideal, perfect one of the, definitely one of the few perfect Autobots when it comes to the X-Men. I mean, this dude will kill humans if he needs to. And again, he'll do it to protect his allies. Now, as for his mutant ability, I definitely would give him his sonic manipulation or his sonic blast like he had in Robots in Disguise. But considering the sheer fact that Cybertronians also mastered their powers and abilities, this dude would likely be an Omega level mutant with sound-based manipulation. Now, considering the sheer fact that Jazz normally doesn't even play with that racial discrimination, I could definitely see him being a top tier X-Men and probably one of the most active members of the X-Men as well. Like, this dude would probably go out of his way to just go out and save any young mutants and maybe even recruit some to the Xavier Institute. And if they just don't want to be X-Men, good, okay, that's fine with him. Just make sure we train up your power so that if in case you gotta defend yourself, you gotta do what you gotta do. And considering the sheer fact that this man is like fighting against characters that are like rival the Dinobots even when they're in a weakened state, he's definitely going to be a major powerhouse on the team. Now, in terms of his role for the X-Men, like with Megatron being a mentor and Tarn being kind of a villain, I see Jazz being a second in command to Cyclops, if not flat out a co-leader with Cyclops. Because Jazz is known for being calm, cool, and collected, and very adaptable when situations get tough. His whole thing is the fact that he is calm in the most dangerous of situations. Now, as for his friends, obviously, with him, Cyclops, and I could definitely see Gambit. Gambit and him are just perfect for each other. They are the Riz masters, in my opinion. I mean, him and Gambit would basically be like buddy-buddy. Like, they would be brothers, but you wouldn't even know it. Like, it would be one of those relationships where, like, your friend is basically your brother because y'all talk together all the time. You basically know each other inside and out. That's how his relationship with Gambit would be. Now, Cyclops and him could definitely butt heads. I could even see them having, like, a sort of rivalry when they, like, lead, seeing whose plan could outdo the other. But with Gambit, that's his best friend. That's his brother. That's his, you know, battle partner, his day one. They finna be ride or dies, all right? And I could actually see him and Gambit being the deadliest duo in the X-Men. Imagine kinetic energy, right, and sound manipulation on a whole different level. And considering the sheer fact that mutants improve, imagine Jazz only just needing to snap his fingers or maybe just even think of where he wants to place a sound wave and it just goes off. The same way Gambit can now charge just about anything at this point in comics. And in all honesty, I think Jazz would actually be at home a lot more with the X-Men just as much as he is with the Autobots. Him coordinating plans, probably far more successful plans, considering the sheer fact that Cybertronians can process information a lot faster and come up with plans a lot quicker. Now, while Jazz is definitely not the best tactician on this list, he is definitely a lethal one nevertheless. And I would probably say he rivals Cyclops when it comes to like plan making, but the difference is he can't get stressed out. It's literally been impossible for him to get stressed out. He's one of the most calm, collected, and cool lieutenants Optimus has. Even in face of certain death, this dude will find a way out of it. Now, in terms of like his interaction in Avengers vs. X-Men, dude would probably be friends with a large majority of these heroes because he is just, and all around, he's just a pretty cool guy. I think that's just how it is with Jazz, in all honesty. Now, again, some of these characters I'm about to name are likely going to be his friends, and he's going to be like, look, I'm sorry what I got to do to y'all, but I got to run the fade. Yes, I absolutely have to. We got to do what we got to do. And one of the few heroes would definitely be Spider-Man. Now, these two would definitely be great friends. I could see Pete calling Jazz when he's down and about, and I can see Jazz being someone be like, yo, let me finish this mission, I'm gonna come over, we gonna hang out, right? And then another hero I could definitely see is Luke Cage. He might even be a family friend at that point because, again, Luke Cage does try to improve the black community. And then Jazz is also a fan of black culture. Yeah, that's actually been established in the Optimus Prime series. And believe it or not, I could even see, Jazz being a uncle to Luke and Jessica's kid. Iron Fist as well. Iron Fist and him would definitely be good friends. And I would like to see just a straight up martial arts battle where eventually someone's going to have to pull out something. Is Danny going to pull out his Iron Fist or his cheating manipulation at the last second? Or is Jazz going to pull out his Sonic Blast at the last second? Who's going to do it? And then you got She-Hulk. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a flirtatious battle. Like, I probably see Jazz kind of getting the yams afterwards, so it's just the Riz is just going to have an overall effect. But overall, Jazz would just be devastating across the board. His tactics, the way he maneuvers, the way he is. But let's also talk about love interest, right? While She-Hulk is definitely a possibility, I could also see other X-Men girls like Dazzler definitely being one of them. She's a mutant that has the ability to manipulate sound waves and even being able to absorb and amplify herself. She was actually able to absorb Black Bolt's scream and then utilize it as like physical strength. Yeah, she's absolutely a menace across the board, but she's also able to bend light as well. Then you have to share fact that Jubilee is also a perfect pick. Now, I do see Jazz kind of being like an older brother figure to Jubilee, but then again, there's also the possibility that they can kind of get along so well that Jubilee develops a crush and they just wind up being a couple eventually. I could see that happening. Now, one of the more interesting ones I could also see is definitely Rogue. Now, believe it or not, while I don't think Jazz would do it, it could possibly happen to where Rogue likes Jazz, Jazz likes Rogue, and Gambit likes Rogue. Having this little love triangle to cause all sorts of drama. Plus, it's Rogue. I mean, it could be very interesting just to see how it goes. Maybe Jazz can figure out a way to use his powers to be able to touch her without harming her. That could probably get under Gambit's skin, and then this could boil over into a rivalry in a way. I mean, it would be a very aggressive, it'd probably be a very friendly one, but at the end of it, I kind of do see Jazz backing off and maybe even encouraging Gambit to go out with Rogue, maybe just, get it over with and tell her how you feel. And again, this could probably be a way for them to save their relationship. But overall, Jazz would be a perfect tactician, a perfect friend, and I definitely think he would be a great leader of the X-Men as well. But now, on to number 2. Now, y'all already know I had to put the King of Dinosaurs on here. And believe it or not, he would actually be very much at home with the X-Men, considering the fact that Grimlock would classify as a mutant due to the fact that he is a combination of Cybertronian, Predacon, and dinosaur DNA, making him a genetic mutation in general. Now, you see, Grimlock's contribution to the X-Men would actually be one of many things. He'll be a strategist, probably one of the best strategists, mind you, as he's able to orchestrate entire armies to literally have it to the point where you can't even get through the front lines. And again, this is with very few and limited resources, meaning he was outperforming and beating the likes of Devastator, Bruticus, and Megatron himself when it came to the battlefield. Keep in mind, Megatron had strategists like Onslaught coordinating plans, and they could not still beat this guy when it came to a strategic play on the battlefield. And funny enough, Slug was also one of his strategists. And the fact that Grimlock also records everything and makes sure that he's prepared for the next bout means he's willing to improve himself entirely. However, due to his gruff and definitely contrasting nature with some leaderships like Optimus Prime, it means that he is willing to do headstrong things that will ultimately sometimes benefit him, but can also get him into situations where he can't get out of. But believe it or not, I do think that his genetic mutation or his mutant abilities would definitely be the same. He has fire manipulation, super strength, but I definitely say his fire manipulation is like on a much higher level. I would probably put him on the same levels as like Terry from Dinosaur King, and maybe even give him a Tyrannosaurus form as also his mutation. Plus, with his rage boost ability, dude is a jack of all trades and a master of few. But believe it or not, I think his interactions with the likes of characters like Cyclops, maybe even other strategic members of the X-Men, I could definitely see them butting heads initially. I could even see him being a very big contrast to Professor X, considering the fact that Professor X is one of the biggest sellouts to the X-Men entirely. Now, when it comes down to characters that he would get along with, Cyclops is a maybe, but I can also see him getting along to a degree. I can see them butting heads a lot when it comes to strategic play on missions, and Jean kind of being the intermediate member of the team, because I can honestly see Grimlock and Cyclops, they get along on occasion but not all the time. However, just like with Grimlock and Optimus, when those two put their differences aside, they're the most formidable force in the entire universe. Like, nothing will be able to stop them. Now, in terms of actual friends, I could see Wolverine being like his buddy. I could also see Nightcrawler as well. Wolverine, due to the fact that they both have their savage natures that they have to overcome, and I can see them bonding over that. So, in all honesty, I could see Grimlock and Wolverine being like a very savage duo, like the last duo you want to come across when the X-Men are on the battlefield. Like, if you see these two together, you see Grimlock with his sword in hand, see Wolverine with his claws in hand, you're gonna die. Just make sure your will and testament is already written, so just have that. Another character I can see him getting along with is definitely the likes of Colossus. Colossus could be like that, I guess you could say, that Sludge comparison, where he's just like the person that kind of keeps Grimlock's temper in check, or keeps him in check when he realizes he's wrong. And I could actually see Grimlock being a training partner for Colossus, to where he is definitely going to be a lot stronger in this timeline. I mean, Colossus himself, depending on the iteration, can actually be on the same levels as like the Thing, especially on his base stat. And then there are times where he's able to harm Juggernaut, Hulk, and other characters entirely. But overall, I think Grimlock would benefit Colossus a lot more than Colossus would benefit him, as he would definitely be a good instructor for even a lot of the younger X-Men as well, and even maybe some of the older ones, because I could see where Grimlock is just training a lot of these members to improve their powers. Now, Nightcrawler specifically gives me like Swoop vibes, and I could actually see them being best friends off of this, where Swoop or Nightcrawler here does get himself into situations that kind of just feel a little bit too, sticky, but Grimlock is somewhere to bail him out on occasion. Now, what about the Avengers versus X-Men confrontation? Well, this is one of the few times where I can definitely see Grimlock and Cyclops being a whole unit. In all honesty, I think that this would be a fight that the Avengers can't win, especially on a strategic front. I could see Grimlock fighting against Red Hulk, and I think he would just jump at Red Hulk almost immediately. Like, he would be itching to fight him. And then there's Thor. Now, depending on who you really want to win, I could definitely see Grimlock beating the absolute dog crap out of Red Hulk. But then Thor, especially like during this time and era, like pre-current Thor, like during this time and era, definitely is giving Grimlock a fight. I could probably see that being a stalemate, or Thor winning or Grimlock winning, but either one is a high difficulty either way. Now, in terms of love interest, Grimlock has like two. They have to be highly dangerous, and yet somehow he finds that attractive. I mean, me personally, I understand that kind of taste, because for some reason dangerous women just find it's just finding it attractive. Like, there's something about a woman that can just tear you to pieces that just makes them attractive. But then you also have adventurous women. Now, in terms of the X-Men, there's like a few I can actually put them with. One of them is Psylocke, and well, believe it or not, my picks are like Psylocke, Scarlet Witch, and then you also have Magic. Now, in terms of characters outside of the X-Men, I could definitely see him going for someone like, and this might be a little controversial, Hela. I don't know why, but it just fits him in a way, because again, you want the most dangerous women possible, and for some reason he just likes that. It's like a turn on for him, especially in certain incarnations. But again, these women definitely fit the dangerous yet adventurous type of deal. And then honorable mentions would be like X-23, but if he's like best friends with Wolverine, I think he really wouldn't do that, as he would definitely feel like it'd be out of pocket. Now, in terms of what Grimlock kind of brings to the X-Men, he's definitely the most aggressive on this list, but he's definitely the most strategic, and I think he would actually be a main powerhouse for the team, and even for Cyclops, as it's very possible he could bring out that more, I guess you could say, more modern leadership style, or that enough is enough mindset in Cyclops. But now let's move on to the last one. Last and certainly not least, we have to talk about the GOAT. I think Optimus is definitely one of the easiest ones I could have put on this list, other than, well, Tarn, obviously. But Optimus himself being pretty much everything everyone else is, except there is just one little thing that makes him stand out from the rest. He's a actual leader. Now, do I think he would agree with some of the X-Men's methods? Believe it or not, no. Albeit Optimus can be kind of soft at times, or more or less soft-spoken, Optimus does have a point where enough is enough. And I do think this would actually be very impactful on a large majority of the X-Men, especially when it comes to threats that simply do need to be put down. Because as I always say, there's a difference when Optimus wants you dead and when he's just trying to, subdue you. There is a difference. Optimus isn't some bloodthirsty killer. He's not. That's not how he is. That's not who he is in general. Optimus himself is one of the greatest leaders in fiction, leading through multiple factions with multiple different personalities and trying to work them out the best that he can so that he can have a better opportunity for his Autobots in the future. And then there's the fact that during certain events, he would likely use the Matrix. Imagine Optimus utilizing the Matrix of leadership to make things better. It's very possible that he could purify just about anything. Because just imagine him purifying the Dark Phoenix, right? Imagine him being able to, just do that. He purifies the Dark Phoenix. He allows them, or, makes it so that they can honestly just be one of the more stronger entities, basically making a white phoenix early is what I'm trying to say here. And I actually do think this would be able to benefit the X-Men greatly, because imagine Optimus Prime during the events of Avengers vs. X-Men. He fights against Captain America, fights against Thor, Vision, and all these other characters, and then it comes down to the Dark Phoenix saga where he basically he basically purifies the Phoenix and makes the white Phoenix. So that way there are more X-Men, or more mutants, I should say, across the entire multiverse. You see, Optimus is going to find the best possible ways for the X-Men to continue. And he is one of those people that would honestly do that. There's no way, in no way, shape, or form, that Optimus is not going to find a way for the X-Men to be on top. Even if it takes a more aggressive means, he's still gonna find a way nevertheless. We know this because this is Optimus's character. This is who he is. This is how he is as a character. He's gonna find a way, whether they really see that he is or not. He's on the same levels, if not flat out better, in my opinion, than the likes of Captain America. And believe it or not, I actually do believe at the end of the day, he would be the most prominent member, if not the most influential member of the X-Men. Do I think he would die? I'm going to say maybe. It's very possible. It's very possible Optimus could easily give his life for the X-Men in order to spur on a new cause, and then just be brought back in possibly a later era, but he would have his legacy live on. Now, in terms of love interest, Storm kind of just fits it. It's obvious, it's just there, and in all honesty, I think it's just it fits perfectly. There's no way I could have Optimus with anyone else among the X-Men. other than Storm. But overall, I know this section is a bit short for Optimus, but what else can I say? Greatest leader of all time. Right then and there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's him. He's the GOAT. And he's going to benefit everyone around him. But that's going to be all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And let me know what you guys think of this video. Would you guys like to see more top 10 or top 5 Transformers for certain categories and stuff like that? Let me know what you guys think down below. Please comment, like, and subscribe and share it with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. Peace.